to another episode of Roster Rescue. I am Zack Zander, and we talk fantasy all day, every single day. It's a beautiful day today, and I'm with an old friend, Chris McConnell from Roto Bros. We go back. We've been in multiple debates, and I can't wait to get in another debate. So, Chris, how we doing today?
Doing good, man. Good to talk to you again. I know it's been a while. Kind of, the whole COVID thing the last year or so kind of threw everything into a tailspin. But yeah, it's good to be back, man. Good to see you again. It's good to, we're friendly, we're friends, but we definitely have gotten into it before as far as some heated debates. But it's all, we all keep it friendly and everything like that. So it's definitely good to be back and glad to be on here, man.
It's always in good fun, and it's always about football. And I love the spirited debates. That's what I get into. And we've had a ton, and it's usually over the NFL draft. And obviously, it's the fantasy aspects of it, and it's the prospects, and it goes all the way back to Mr. Philip Lindsay, who
yes, yep,
who my friend Chris over here. Was he like your RB2 or something 3 years ago? You had him ranked really high, and I checked you on it, and then he went undrafted, and I said, Chris,
I got made fun of.
Stupid, man. You're stupid, man. And then he makes the team. And I said, oh my God. And then I seen how electric Philip Lindsay was, and it was like, holy shit.
Yeah,
I had to take the L on it. So
I'll never forget the Philip Lindsay thing because not only do we have some good debates surrounding him and Royce Freeman, but Philip Lindsay, it was weird because he wasn't really even on my radar to begin with because, for the Roto Bros podcast, what I do every spring for our subscribers is I do these things that I like to call scouting briefs, 15 to 30 minute, little mini pods, if you will, and just kind of explain to people what I see on the tape. I'll give out minute marks on certain games for them to watch these players and say, yeah, at the minute 31 mark, check out this play. And so on and so on. But when I started watching the Philip Lindsay tape from that season, the game that really, he absolutely jumped off the screen to me in every single facet of the game. And it was the Utah film. I'll never forget it when I watched him play for Colorado, when I watched him play Utah. Everything was his speed, his agility, his pass catching, his pass blocking. That's something I really like to see out of a running back. So it was just one of the things I was like, my God, who is this guy? So he ended up as my RB5 in that draft, actually. So not RB2, but my RB5. So we'll see what he does. He did some good things for his hometown in Denver, but we'll see what he does in Houston. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to do anything for the worst team in the league this year, but
honestly, he's my favorite back in Houston this year. Honestly, I think he's the most talented. But going back to was it the 2018 draft or was it 2019?
2018.
And it was Nick Chubb and Kerryon Johnson, and I was a really big Royce Freeman fan. And then, damn, sideswipe, he hasn't been that great. And Nick Chubb has been the stud behind Saquon Barkley that everybody really wanted. And it was such a crazy class, and it was one of the first times we really went at it. I think it went for 2 hours live.
Yeah, it was at least an hour and a half, and it was a live show in a Facebook group. So we really we've come a long way since then.
Actually, it might not be this exact. It might not be the exact clip, but I have some old clips. So let's expand it. And can I get some sound here? I should be able to get some sound. Oh, it's not giving me the option that sound. What fucking bullshit. So it's us, and you can see as we're going at it, and
we look ridiculous.
Seriously.
But it was definitely a rock solid debate, and it was there was really nobody else at the time that I could have those sorts of conversations with. I'm looking for somebody in these groups, and I'm like, man, is there anybody that I can have a legitimate show with? And you came along, and we just sort of got together and started doing that, and it was great, man. It's been a blast. So like I said, tonight it's really good to kind of be back and with you and be able to do this again.
For sure, man. And it's nice to have a rival. Every Michigan needs an Ohio State.
There you go.
Every Cleveland Brown needs a Pittsburgh Steeler. Every Chris McConnell needs a Zack Zander. And you need that because you have to understand in this industry, if you want to be a scout or if you want to be a fantasy football analyst or a dynasty analyst, like you're not always going to be right. Somebody's going to think something's different, and you're going to be wrong sometimes and they're going to be right. But it's also so fun to be the person that is right and the other person is wrong. So that's why I thank you, Chris, for coming on this. And you're kind of on my turf today. So this is 1000% a dynasty football podcast. It breaks down everything dynasty. And what's crazy is Chris invited me to my first dynasty league, the 12th man league that Luke runs. And it was about 5 years ago. And I was never, it was new to me. I played fantasy football for almost probably 12 years at the time. I just never got into a dynasty league.
It changed his life.
It really did. It's kind of like, it was like crack, man. It's really addictive. And
it is.
Now look at me. I'm in like 11 leagues and I don't know. I'm probably in a startup I don't even know about yet. I love it. You can draft your players. You own them forever. There's a lot of strategy in it. And I can't wait to just see what happens next because I love the draft so much. And then the draft happens. Now you have these players and then it's projecting forward. It's what I always try to do is be the person that's ahead of the curve. You don't want to be behind the curve. It's always about being ahead of the curve. So right off the bat, we're going to play a little dynasty game of which side of the fence is Chris McConnell on.
I have
a couple players listed that their value is really in limbo in the 2021 season. And that meaning they could skyrocket into the 22 season, be much more valuable than they are now, or they could just fall flat on their face and be a player that you're looking at like he's Le'Veon Bell or Todd Gurley. Like those are the type of players you want to be ahead of the curve on because they are fucking worthless right now. Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley both went undrafted in the dynasty startup that I just did. And we're talking about 2 top 5 running backs 3 seasons ago.
Oh, so how the mighty have fallen. It's unbelievable. I remember drafting Le'Veon Bell. I actually traded up. I traded a second-round pick in E.J. Manuel at the time, Zach, to trade up to the number 1 overall pick to get Le'Veon Bell because the guy just didn't know what he wanted to take, who he wanted to take at number 1. And for me, it was easy. And I took Bell, and it's like, it lasted a few good seasons. But, man, have the mighty have fallen.
What a name, E.J. Manuel. First round quarterback. Holy shit. Buffalo. That's why it took so long to find Josh Allen behind Jim Kelly because you draft fucking EJ Manuels. So anyway, let's start the game, Chris. Let's start the game. And it's going to be which side of the fence are you on with DJ Chark, wide receiver, Jacksonville Jaguars?
Got it. Okay. Look, I like DJ Chark actually. And he's actually one of my buys. I think that's a segment we're going to get to here in a little bit, buys and sells. He would be on my buy list. Look, he's 6'4", 198. The guy has 4.3 speed, so he's got the size, he's got the speed. We saw him break out really in a way in his rookie year. And like, what quarterbacks of note has he ever played with? Now he's got a guy like Trevor Lawrence, and he's the unquestioned number 1 wide receiver. And, we've talked about, or we've heard about, Urban Meyer sort of calling him out and saying he's a big guy that plays little. I don't know if that's sort of Urban's way of motivating DJ Chark. I don't know that is the best way to, come in and just sort of kick the door in like the Kool-Aid man and just immediately insult one of your maybe not insult, maybe that's a little bit strong of a word, but sort of harshly criticize one of your best offensive players and arguably your best offensive player. And so to me, it was kind of questionable. But again, Urban Meyer is kind of learning as he goes from an NFL standpoint. This is his first year. He's a rookie head coach. Now he's a college genius, arguably the second greatest head coach in college to ever do it. But it was kind of strange. But for DJ Chark in totality, I'm all in on it because for me, there have been since John Elway, there have been 3 quarterbacks that have been generational talents, and that's Andrew Luck, that's Joe Burrow, and that is Trevor Lawrence. And so I want to be tied to these types of these generational quarterbacks in any way, shape, or form. And if I can have a tie to Trevor Lawrence, and that be a guy like Travis Etienne, who just got drafted, obviously his backfield mate at Clemson, or DJ Chark, most notably, yeah, I'm going to want all in on that. And it's something I'm not really going to be shy about. I think that DJ Chark could really, really have a solid season. He could end the season as a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. I don't know that I would necessarily expect that. But look, this is not going to be a great football team. They'll be a little more competitive. But the defense still isn't going to be great. You know, they're still going to lose a lot of games. And they're playing in a division with the Colts, who have one of the best defenses in the league. The Titans, who are probably going to score a lot of points as well. So this is a team that's probably going to be playing catch-up a lot. And so they're going to be throwing the ball. And I think with Trevor Lawrence, they'll be more efficient. And I think another year in the league with DJ Chark, for DJ Chark, I think sky's the limit for this guy. I really think he has a very, very high ceiling. And I don't think his floor is very low either. So we're looking at a high floor and a high ceiling with DJ Chark.
You know, the thing about Urban Meyer is he puts his stamp of approval on anybody he puts on that field. And I knew he was going to come in there and pick his players, and he's going to play who he wants. I'm a little worried. Now, we're talking about a player. This is Dynasty. This isn't just for the 21 season. This is for Dynasty, and he's going to be a free agent next year. So we don't know if he's going to be tied to Trevor Lawrence for 4 or 5 more years. Now, he has alpha tendencies, 6'4", 200 pounds, legit 4.3 speed, amazing wingspan, and we've seen him produce at the NFL level, Chris. It's just they bring in Marvin Jones. Now that feels like an Urban guy. Like Urban brought in Marvin Jones like he's the typical outside receiver. Laviska Shenault is going to be the slot guy. They bring in Etienne, and it kind of feels like Urban wasn't loving what the Jaguars had on offense. Now we're talking about a 1-15 team. They've lost the last 15 games of the season. Yeah. And we're going to get to James Robinson a little bit later. But DJ Chark was part of that 1-15 team. I think the talent and the ceiling of this guy is a star, a complete star.
Yeah.
I'm not, 100% into buying him long-term in Dynasty because we don't know what's going to happen this season and where he's going to end up next season. I don't know if he's going to get re-signed by Jacksonville. So I have big question marks that he is even going to be tied to Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne and Urban Meyer past this season. Now the talent is there. I think the floor is a little bit lower than you're leading on.
Well, and perhaps it is. But I think playing with a guy like Trevor Lawrence, I mean, it's not like he's playing with, a guy like Brian Hoyer, just any other quarter, or Tyrod Taylor, just any other guy at quarterback. He's playing with a guy in Trevor Lawrence who, yeah, he is a rookie, but he's not just like any rookie, right? Like Joe Burrow wasn't just any rookie. This is a guy that has is going to have an accelerated football IQ. Urban Meyer was just talking about it. I think it was either last night or this morning, how quickly he has, sped up his learning of the playbook. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to come out and have a really good season for a rookie quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to, beat Justin Herbert and break some records. But it also wouldn't surprise me at the same time if he does, right? Like, who would be surprised if Trevor Lawrence, of all quarterbacks, comes out and starts breaking rookie records? But again, I think we also have to look at who his quarterback is, because I think, especially with receivers, that does a lot. They rely so much on their quarterback, so much of the time, that their floor can many times be tied to that quarterback. So the fact that Trevor Lawrence is going to be better than probably close to half the quarterbacks in the league the day he steps on the football field, I just think that is going to sort of automatically heighten DJ Chark's floor. But look, we don't know what Urban Meyer's going to do with this offense, Zach. He's a good college coach, but there's
a lot of question marks. That's why I'm a little hesitant. I'm a little worried about his floor, and we're talking about a player that's more than likely probably going to be playing for a different NFL team next year. But with those alpha tendencies, he's been kind of quarterback proof. He hasn't had a great quarterback, so you make some very good points there. He has produced with subpar quarterback play, Trevor Lawrence is going to be a star.
And here's a quick thought. Here's a quick thought as well. You and I'm glad you mentioned that, because he has DJ Chark generally has produced with just guys at quarterback on bad football teams that are constantly losing, that are constantly having to throw to keep up pace, right? And to keep up with. So now he's going to be on a bad football team with a significantly better quarterback on a team that is still likely going to have to pass in order to try to be competitive and try to win football games. So, he's done it before with just guys. Now he's got that guy at quarterback and Trevor Lawrence. So I think, again, I'm all in DJ Chark. I think he's going to be okay, and I'm going to roll that dice. We hear people say all the time, some talent finds a way. Talent doesn't bat 1,000, right? It just doesn't. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. But a lot of times talent does find a way. I think in DJ Chark's case, it will. He's got it all in front of him. And I think he's actually added 10 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. So he's actually gotten bigger. So as long as he's still running a 4.4, I'm happy.
He needs it. And we're talking about a player that was coming out of LSU that I loved his upside, but he was very raw as a prospect. He's came along. He has still a little bit to do. And it has a lot to do with him being a free agent. So I'm a little worried about that. I'm a little worried about his floor. I was really hot on him as soon as the Jaguars got the number 1 pick, and I knew he was going to be catching passes. But I have to admit, Shenault in the slot, I see them doing a ton with Shenault. Marvin Jones seems to be kind of the same type of player Chark is, but
he is
more seasoned. Maybe not the 4-3 guy, but he's the same type of player, the big catch guy, the down the field option. So there's DJ Chark. I'm a little colder than Chris is, but I still respect the talent. Let's go on. So which side of the fence are you on with Trey Sermon, rookie running back out of Ohio State, formerly Oklahoma, picked in the 3rd round from the playing for the 49ers now with the loaded backfield that the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan is notorious for starting and having multiple running backs produce throughout the season. It's Mostert, it's McKinnon. He's bringing in Wilson, and I mean, they're Hasty was starting a couple games that people were starting every single week. Like, it was getting crazy. Trey Sermon drafted in the 3rd round. Mostert's still there. Tevin Coleman's gone. I'm gonna go ahead and lead this one. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and lead it. Trey Sermon had a remarkable Big Ten championship game for Ohio State. I mean, amazing. He set records. He had an amazing game against Clemson where he was jumping over people, and it looked great. And then what happened against Alabama? He got hurt. We're talking about going back to Oklahoma, where almost any running back that is decent can produce 1,000-yard season at Oklahoma. And he kind of was sharing time with Stevenson, who I think is a bust of a prospect also. So he's a very shifty running back. He reminds me a lot of Chris Carson. He's shifty for his size. He can break tackles multiple different ways. I don't think he holds up at the NFL level to be a consistent fantasy option. I think he's going to get overrated because of the 49ers system. And if you're spending a high draft pick in your rookie draft for him, I don't know if you're ever going to get that value out of him, because he's going to have a pop week. There's going to be a Trey Sermon pop week. Chris, mark my words.
Weeks.
In 2021. No, there's going to be at least one where he's fucking amazing. He's going to be going off the board for future first-round picks, and it's going to be nuts. And then the next week he's probably going to be injured or banged up, or they're probably going to start Mostert that week, or they're going to bring in somebody else, or it's going to be very disappointing, or you're going to get annoyed with the situation. Trey Sermon, I think, is getting overvalued because he was drafted by Kyle Shanahan in the San Francisco 49ers. He has some talent, but I don't know if he's ever going to be durable enough to be the fantasy option that you drafted him to be.
Have you, and everybody watching, have you guys seen the SpongeBob meme where he's acting like he's taking a really deep breath in before he goes on a diatribe? Let's pretend that's what I'm about to do here, because you mentioned being a little more warm on DJ Chark than you are. I am scorching hot for Trey Sermon. Scorching hot for Trey Sermon. We talk, Mark, my partner Mark on the Roto Bros podcast, we have talked about Trey Sermon at length. There is no bigger fan of Trey Sermon outside of the Bay Area than myself, and I'm comfortable saying that. Look, first of all, let's look at what's going on in his situation. Raheem Mostert is a China doll. He's all dealing with an injury. Okay, he's already losing reps due to an injury. Jeff Wilson is on the PUP list, going to miss at least the first 6 weeks. Okay, Wayne Gallman's behind it. Who? Is anybody really scared of Wayne Gallman? Is anybody scared of JaMychal Hasty? So we got to keep that in mind. Those are two guys that when you have a guy like Trey Sermon with that sort of, those are two guys that you are not worried about at all. In addition to that, the coaches are going to sort of give you a peek behind the curtain. They're going to tell you how much they like a guy. Where was Trey Sermon drafted? He was drafted in the second round. How was he drafted? By being traded up for. They traded up for Trey Sermon in the second round to draft him. Now,
he was third round, Chris.
Excuse me, third round. I'm thinking of Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams, the Broncos trade up in the second for him. My apologies. But anyway, they traded up in the third round for Trey Sermon. I want to be tied. I just talked about want to be tied to Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow in any way that I can. I want to be tied to Kyle Shanahan any way that I can. Sean McVay gets this love that he's some offensive genius, and he is. He's an offensive guy. But he doesn't hold a candle to Shanahan. Shanahan has been out coaching him since the day he got the damn job in San Francisco. Let's keep that in mind, okay? Especially head to head. So and when we're talking Shanahan running backs, I want a piece of that, right? So I want to be tied to a Kyle Shanahan running back if I can. Now, this as a unit, San Francisco's backfield averaged the third most fantasy points as a unit last year, okay? And I think they have the potential to do a lot more if they commit to more of a 1-2 punch with Mostert and Trey, and maybe just go all in on Trey if and when Raheem gets hurt. I will agree with you that there is a concern with Trey's bill of health. Now, he did sprain an LCL in Oklahoma. That caused a depth chart shakeup, which ultimately helped him decide to transfer to Ohio State, which I think was a good decision for him. However, he's got a lot of tread on the tires. He's got just 3 20-plus carry games and only 48 receptions across 45 career college contests. In addition to that, Sermon's tape, he's got a 73rd percentile adjusted SPARQ athleticism score, so he is highly athletic for his size. He runs a 4.59 with a plus agility score via player profiler. And his yards after contact numbers that suggest that there is a ceiling to chase in regards to Trey Sermon, especially in this offense. Not only that, Zach, he fits this offense perfectly. There are 2 running backs in this draft that fit a outside zone blocking scheme better than anybody. That's Javonte Williams, who also got drafted into a perfect spot in Denver, and Trey Sermon. So Kyle Shanahan could have only had one better running back in this draft for that zone blocking system, and it would be Javonte Williams, who obviously they didn't get in the second round. So they got the second best running back in this draft in regards to this outside power scheme that they run. He's a physical player. You mentioned Chris Carson. I don't think that's a bad comp all in all, because I do like their physical running style. They're quick and agile for their size. Trey Sermon can play. And he breaks tackles. He is hard to bring down. And in addition to that, another thing, real quick, on third downs, people underestimate this, I think. On third downs, Trey Sermon is important, and Trey Sermon is good. And I'm not talking about in the passing game. He can catch passes. He's not going to be Travis Etienne with that pass-catching volume. But he has the ability to catch the football. He's not just stone hands out of the backfield. But I'm talking about his pass blocking. Well, pass blocking doesn't score fantasy points. You're right. But it gets the coaches to trust you, which is exactly one of the reasons that I fell in love with Philip Lindsay back in 2018. His pass blocking is third down. His coaches trusted him. You can trust Trey Sermon to protect your China doll Jimmy Garoppolo and your franchise quarterback Trey Lance. So on third down, Trey Sermon's pass blocking in his career, 241 snaps, only 9 quarterback pressures, 1 sack allowed. He is money when it comes
to that's college. We're talking an Ohio State scheme where
You
it's
gotta do
one
it somewhere,
throw the
Zach.
ball out. I mean, Oklahoma
do
to
it
get the
somewhere.
ball out. He's playing with Kyler Murray. He's playing with Jalen Hurts. He's playing with Justin Fields. Yeah, the quarterback's not getting hit in these schemes, but yes, he can block. I'm just saying it's college. How many times does the quarterback really get hit within 2 seconds? They get the ball out very quick in these spread schemes. Now, Trey Sermon, okay, let's go back. 4'6" guy. Not great enough at Oklahoma to break out as an NFL prospect. Had to go to Ohio State. So he goes to one great situation to possibly even a better situation. And then where was it? I mean, did you watch all the games in 2020? Because I was looking for him the whole entire season. And Master Teague and him were kind of sharing carries, and he didn't really bust out. The Ohio State was scoring plenty of points. Trey Sermon didn't really impress me until the Northwestern tape was amazing. The Clemson tape was amazing. He's jumping over guys. He has a unique way of breaking a tackle, almost different every play. He'll jump over you. He'll run through you. He'll spin. He's very agile for that size, but I see a player that he can do that until he's not. The durability is a big thing with me, and consistency is a big thing with me. And he was my 11th rated running back coming into the draft in 2021. And there was a player that was my 12th rated running back that actually the 49ers drafted also. And I think he fits that scheme a little bit more than Trey Sermon. And it's somebody with 4.41 speed, Elijah Mitchell.
No,
out of Louisiana, a 6th-round pick who obviously they saw something in this kid when they drafted a running back already. They had Mostert already. I think he fits more of that Mostert role. They will want to do a 1-2 punch. Trey Sermon is never going to be the guy. He's not going to be that guy. I think they're looking to go back to the Atlanta days where it was like a Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman. I think they're looking for a guy that's going to be a little bit more of a pounder that Devontae did.
Real quick, you mean the Devontae Freeman that was the number 1 overall ranked fantasy running back? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we can go back. Yeah, okay. I'm not comparing him to Devontae Freeman. I'm saying what they're going to want to do in the scheme. Trey Sermon's going to be the bruiser, and Elijah Mitchell is the guy that gets on the outside of that outside zone scheme and gets to the edge and gets to the sideline and can break it like Mostert. I think they're looking for a 1-2 punch, and that's why I'm a little scared of Sermon because I don't think he's ever going to exactly be that guy. Chris, we have to move on because I can't talk about fucking Trey Sermon this whole show. You are obviously much more warmer on him than I am, but look out for Elijah Mitchell because this dude has a very good talent compared to the players that really do well in that scheme, like Mostert, Tevin Coleman. So let's go on. Jesus Christ, let's go on. So back in March, I did a series, and it was my top 5 sells. James Robinson was on that. And it was because of the same things we talked about with Chark. And it was because Urban Meyer is going to want to pick his own players. And I had a feeling they were going to bring somebody in the draft. And James Robinson, if you were ever going to sell that man, it was in March or April before the draft. Now his value has declined. So right now, where are you? Which side of the fence are you on with James Robinson? Because he's not the same value James Robinson he was in March. I'm talking about today. We're about to be in July. His value right now, which side of the fence are you on? And what do you think his production is going to be like in this offense?
Yeah, okay, so real quick, I traded James. Worth noting, James Robinson was one of those guys. I think he was a top 5 running back in the league last year in fantasy as an undrafted rookie free agent behind a terrible offensive line. He was the offense. Now, it's not like he's Saquon Barkley behind a bad offensive line, right? He was all they had. Okay, he ended up being all they had once Fournette was out of town. He was given the ball with a high amount, like a high rate, right? Like he was given you talk about he was a workhorse in every definition of it. So it's worth noting that he has overcome the odds before on a bad football team. It's not like he was running behind the Colts as an undrafted free agent. He was running behind as an undrafted free agent for a terrible football coach on a terrible football team with a terrible quarterback running and doing the things that he was doing there. I actually traded him in my biggest dynasty league for a first-round pick and a third-round pick. It was actually May 8th. It looks like this happened. I just looked that up. So it was after Travis Etienne. Now the first round pick is in 2024, but I always say it's never too early to stockpile draft picks for the future. That's how you build a deep beast in dynasty. However, James Robinson, for me, I don't think he's going to disappear. Now, I don't think he's not going to get anywhere close to where he was. Travis Etienne, the Jaguars broke the number one NFL rule, the cardinal rule, and you know me. I'm the CEO, okay, chairman of the board for the Running Backs Don't Matter committee in real life. You never draft. I don't care. I don't give a shit how good they are. You never draft a running back in the first round. They broke that rule. But I think what Urban may be wanting to do more than what we think, Zach, is sort of install a sort of Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt type of backfield here, because I don't think he's going to look at it and say, okay, this kid overcame all the odds, did this on a bad football team. He's clearly got some talent, right? When it was week 11 and it was clear that they were just going to give him the football like crazy, people still couldn't stop him. So he knows he's got some talent in that backfield, and he's already mentioned wanting to use Travis Etienne in that sort of change of pace satellite rollback. So I do think the draft capital with Travis Etienne matters. I think Travis Etienne is going to be a hella good PPR running back. I think he's got an incredibly high ceiling. And look, James Robinson gets hurt, or if he was just a mirage last year and ends up just absolutely crapping the bed this year, Travis Etienne can take over and be the next sort of guy in a Christian McCaffrey type of capacity. I think that is his ceiling, by the way. But I think James Robinson, I'm not completely selling, but I think we're looking at RB3 value at best. I don't think we're going to see RB2, and I'm not saying that he is Nick Chubb or they're going to have two RB1s. I don't think that's going to happen. They're going to have a better offensive line for that. But I do think that he may be wanting to sort of install a thunder and lightning sort of approach, and I don't think that's really a bad idea until you learn exactly what James Robinson is going to be post-rookie season.
I mean, he was an amazing fantasy option last year because you got him for free. And yes, in PPR, he was catching like 4 or 5 drop-offs every single week, and it was amazing. It was great. On a 1-15 team, let's talk about in real life, guys. Urban Meyer comes in, obviously thought there was a need for a better player coming out of the backfield that was more explosive. And Etienne is like the polar opposite of James Robinson, who I did like coming into the 2020 season and into the draft as a undrafted rookie from Southern Illinois. I watched some of the tape, and he improved on his college tape. Someone that improved his muscle, lost some weight, became more agile, and he was nice. He was really nice, but it reminds me of a player about 4 years ago, Jordan Howard, who came out of nowhere, was a fantasy superstar on a team that was kind of blah, and he won a lot of people championships because he was free.
Yeah.
And then the next season, he was very overdrafted. And no, they did not bring in anybody that year, but it reminds me kind of the Jag, just a guy who gets a ton of volume, who was nice. He's really nice.
Yeah. We've seen Steve Slayton be that guy way back in the day. We saw it.
Come on now. Slayton was explosive. Slayton was amazing.
But he was a one-year wonder, Zach.
James Robinson was doing this on a 1-15 team that had nobody else. Yeah, it could be a Peyton Hillis situation. Now, I don't think he's just going to disappear. Jordan Howard didn't disappear. I don't know if he's ever going to be relevant in fantasy ever again. And real quick, we have a question. I forgot we are live here. We're live on Twitter. We're live on Facebook, multiple different pages. True Serum Football sponsors me, so shout out to those boys. And we're on a couple of their social media platforms. And we do have a couple questions on this right here. Zach asks, who scores more points in 2021, Travis Etienne or James Robinson? Chris, quickly, what do you think on that question?
Etienne, by a significant margin in PPR. Again, I don't hate James Robinson. I'm not selling him completely, but I don't want him as my RB1 or RB2 on my team. I want him as like my second running back off the bench. So like a fifth running back on my team if I can help it. But yeah, no, PPR, it's not going to be close. As long, health permitting, Etienne's the guy.
Etienne is the sexy pick. James Robinson is granny panties right now. Travis Etienne is a thong on a Brazilian woman. And James Robinson is granny panties on a 65-year-old woman. I mean, it's now, is he going to have some value? Yes, but in the dynasty format, I'm so worried he goes down the same line as Jordan Howard, as just a guy who's going to plot around a little bit. And you had your chance to sell him in March. And if you got over a first-round pick, and I don't care if it was 2024 or anything, if you got a first-round pick for him after the draft, you did good. Run away with that, because more than likely you probably got him for free last year. If you make a profit in Dynasty, it's never a bad move. It's never a bad move if you get a player for absolutely free, or a 5th-round pick in a rookie draft, and you get a first-round pick for him. That is profit. You never lose playing that style. So James Robinson, we're both a little bit down on, and it's kind of a hold. You want to sell him? I mean, good luck. So let's go on down the line. A guy I've been buying up, Kenny Golladay. He is 28. He leaves the Detroit Lions to go to the New York Giants, and I know you like the quarterback up there, and I think that's the only thing keeping him away from really, really good dynasty value, and I think he still has it. He's another one of those alpha receivers, 6'4", big play waiting to happen. He's done it. Matthew Stafford has been banged up, and whoever is playing quarterback for Detroit, he was producing at a very high rate, especially in that 2019 season when he led the whole NFL in touchdown receptions. The Giants, they bring in Tony. They bring Saquon Barkley back, Kyle Rudolph, Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard. Darius Slayton's a really nice guy. There's a ton of weapons there. Where are you on the Kenny Golladay fence? Because I'm leaning towards, I think he's going to emerge as the superstar he was in 2019, and you can get him at a very fair price in Dynasty right now.
It's all going to hinge. Everybody knows, it's no secret, I'm a Daniel Jones guy. I think Daniel Jones has the ability to do it. But look, this is his 3rd season, and this is going to be it for him. It's do or die time now for Daniel Jones. You have everything you could ask for. You've got a coach that seems like he's going to be a solid fit up there, okay, who everybody initially made fun of. You've got the offensive line improvements. You've got, in my opinion, who is still the best overall running back in the league when healthy. You've got a receiving core. Look at this receiving core. You just named them. I can't remember if you named Kyle Rudolph. In the red zone, Kyle's going to do amazing things for them.
I did.
And so this is, and of course, Evan Ingram, with those outside tight end snaps. This is an offensive roster, top to bottom. Find me a better one in the NFL. Find me a better from top to bottom in totality.
Wait,
find me a better
weapons?
offensive.
Just weapons, because that offensive line's fucking trash.
Weapons, top to bottom. You can't. There's not a better one on paper in the NFL. So it's all going to come down to Daniel Jones.
I'd probably lean a little bit towards Dallas and those receivers and that running back, but you're going down a great line of their top 6, top 7 weaponry. Absolutely. Daniel Jones is going to have no excuse other than Andrew Thomas isn't a top 5 pick and he's on his back. But Daniel Jones, they should be able to work around that. Saquon should be healthy.
Yeah.
So Mr. Golladay, where does he line up with this? Is he going to be this guy that you want to buy, or do you think he could fall off because they have so many weapons?
We've seen the best of Kenny Golladay, I'm afraid, and we saw that with Matthew Stafford. I like Daniel Jones, but they're going to be able to spread this ball around, and I get it. When they're chucking it downfield and need a 50-50 ball, the first person they're going to look to is Kenny Golladay. But I don't know if that's going to be enough to get back to these wide receiver 1 days for Kenny Golladay. And I don't think it's going to be there. I'm not outright selling him. But at the same time, I think you're probably warmer on him than I am. I think there's other guys in his range at his ADP that I would probably rather have currently. And I think I like this move more in real life for the Giants and for Daniel Jones than I do for Kenny Golladay in fantasy. I just don't know how much more production we're going to see out of him in New York than we did in Detroit, or if he's even going to get close to that. I don't think that volume is going to necessarily be there because you're still going to see Darius Slayton get the ball downfield. Kadarius Toney is more of a freestyler on offense. So they're going to be manufacturing touches for him, trying to get the ball in his hands every which way. Sterling Shepard is, when he's on the field, he's typically a reliable number 2 sort of, quick, shorter wide receiver 2 for them, more of a possession guy. And of course, with Kyle Rudolph and Evan Ingram, you got to get them the ball in the red zone. I don't think Kyle Rudolph is going to do him any favors. We can make fun of Kyle Rudolph between the 20s all we want to, but when it gets, in the red zone, Kyle Rudolph's the real deal. And so that's another place where Kenny Golladay can typically thrive and be a mismatch. So I think there's going to be some opportunities taken away from him, and they're going to pivot toward Kyle Rudolph a little bit. I'm a little more cold on Kenny Golladay this year, to be quite honest.
My thing is, it goes back to tape with me. His 2020 season when he was healthy. Now, I know we got to talk about durability. He wasn't healthy in the 2020 season, but when he was on the field, he was producing gangbusters. They do have a lot of weapons. That's fine. Leave him one-on-one on the outside. With me, it's more or less the perception of his value. I mean, I've seen startups where rookies like Devontae Smith are going ahead of him. I've seen Jalen Waddle go ahead of him. Players like that I'm just I've seen Chenault go ahead of him.
Okay, yeah. I don't know about that.
So it's going to we're talking about a guy 2 years ago that led the NFL in touchdowns on an offense that has a bunch of weapons around him. Now, he might not be a 100-catch guy, but I can see 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns. He might not be top 10 in receptions, but I see a guy that when he makes plays, they're going to be big plays. Daniel Jones needs that guy to kind of throw it up to. He does, except, other than the other team. Now, Sterling Shepard's a player that's not going to be there long-term. I don't think Evan Ingram or Kyle Rudolph is going to be there long-term. Toney is what you said. He's the Deebo Samuel of that offense. He's going to be running screens. He's going to be running reverses. They're going to have him in the backfield a little bit. He's built more like a running back than a wide receiver. So going into the 2022 season, it could just be Toney and Golladay being there. Evan Ingram could leave. Rudolph's probably gone. And then it's Saquon Barkley. And then now we're talking about a team with less volume taken away from Golladay. And I know we're looking forward a little bit. My thing is you can get him in the 7th, 8th round of startups. That's a buy. That's a fucking smash buy every day, all day. I've been getting him on the low in trades. So it's not like I'm giving 2 first-round picks in the future or anything for him. I'm giving away maybe a few second-round picks or a couple prospects along with some picks. So I think at his perceived value, I'm on the fence that says you need to go get Kenny Golladay or you should be pretty happy to have him on your roster right now. So let's hit a quarterback. And it's a player that much like Daniel Jones, he's a quarterback that they obviously were adding more weapons to, and that's Tua Tagovailoa in Miami. I think adding Jalen Waddle, they obviously they needed that speed. They added Will Fuller. They brought in Hunter Long. They didn't bring in a running back so much, but they're giving him more weapons. Obviously, Devontae Parker wasn't the superstar wide receiver alpha on the edge that they needed. They wanted some speed. I can't wait to see this offense. Which side of the fence are you on Tua? Because he's a quarterback in Superflex leagues that's going in the 4th round, who was the 5th overall pick last year in the draft ahead of Justin Herbert, who goes in the top 5 picks. So Tua, which side of the fence are you on with him?
I like Tua, but I think I like him more in real life than I do in fantasy. I think he is. I don't think he's ever going to be some fantasy dynamo quarterback, to be quite honest with you. I don't think he's ever going to be a QB1, but I think he can always. I think he's going to have a long career in the NFL, and I think he has the ability to be a pretty rock solid QB2. I just don't see him. I think his ceiling. And then again, when I say this, this guy has been a QB1 a couple times. So, but I think this is his absolute ceiling, and I think that would be sort of like. And I'm not comparing these two. I'm just from a fantasy scoring perspective. I think his ceiling would be right around where like Kirk Cousins is. We saw in Washington he was playing for a bad football team, throwing a lot. He finished easily in the top 10 as a strong QB1. That happened 1 year. But in Minnesota, it's been more of like QB 12 to QB 15, that sort of thing. I think that's kind of where Tua can be at his best from a fantasy perspective. I just don't see, I've never been a big Devontae Parker guy. I think we've seen the best of him. I think that season was mainly much of a mirage. I love Jalen Waddle. I'm in love with Jalen Waddle. But I don't know if we're going to have a 2021 breakout with Jalen Waddle. They brought in Will Fuller, who I've always been pretty lukewarm on, actually pretty cold on. And I think he's more of a situational deep threat now at this point in his career. And, Mike Gesicki is obviously a great option at tight end, I think. But, Gesicki's time is running out. He's in his third, fourth year now. So it's time for him to sort of, put up or shut up. I think it's a put up or shut up year for him. I don't know if Tua is going to deliver any of this for any of those guys. And I think instead of taking Jalen Waddle where they took him, as much as I love Jalen, you can't pass up on the opportunity to get Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater. Like, I think that was a huge mistake, being able to protect your guy at quarterback. So I don't know that I'm that warm on Tua Tagovailoa. I think I'd like him more in real life than I do fantasy. And of course, that doesn't always translate to great fantasy numbers. So I think his ceiling in fantasy is more of like what we've seen out of a Kirk Cousins, sort of teetering on that high-end QB2, low-end QB1. But I think he's more of a solid QB2 more than anything.
Now, I'm going to be a little bit on the other side of the fence. I'm not calling him a top 5 quarterback going into the 2022 season. Now, like, what we're doing right here is projecting. What I'm doing is projecting that Jalen Waddle, Will Fuller, that's not always about like, all right, go run a 50-yard 9 route. More or less, it's get the ball in this guy's hands on a short pass and let him do all the work. I think you're going to see a ton of that short passes. Now, there's not many players I've ever seen scouting the college football scene that threw a better 8-10-yard slant than Tua Tagovailoa.
I'll agree with that.
On point, it's a laser. He has a quick release. This was a player that had a almost career-threatening injury in 2019 and was very questioned what he was going to do at the pro level in his rookie seasons. A lot of people thought he wasn't even going to play at all. And they had to see what they had into us, so they brought him in halfway through the season. He didn't have a full rookie season. We don't know how healthy he really was. So this is a player that does have some wheels. He can move around. He showed it at Alabama. He can get some of those sneaky rushing yards. He can get a couple touchdowns. He can extend plays and give me the weapons. You mentioned Gesicki. Hunter Long, I think, can push him. He's a tight end I really liked out of Boston College. I see some 2 tight end sets in their future, along with Waddle on the outside. Will Fuller, when he comes off suspension, this is trending up. This is trending up. And if you can get a 22, 23-year-old quarterback with these weapons that the team is all behind in the 4th round of a Superflex startup, I think that's a check mark. You got to go do that, because going into the 2022 season, let's project some numbers a little bit. What do you think the touchdown interception ratio and the yardage is going to be for Tua in the 2021 season? Just a little guesstimate. I'm putting you on the spot a touch. I don't have anything written down. So
yeah, I would say, we're sort of looking, it was 11 touchdowns, 5-6 interceptions last year. So I think we could be looking at sort of, what like Phillip Rivers sort of did last year, 24, and I'm not talking about yards, because I don't know if he's going to throw for over 4,000 yards, but like 24 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Jared Goff, 20 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, something along those lines. I don't think we're going to be seeing, over 30 touchdowns from Tua Tagovailoa. Baker Mayfield, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 26-10 for Matthew Stafford. So I think we're going to see, that last year he threw for Tua threw for, where is he at here? He threw for 1,814 yards. Now that was in 10 games, but I think you extrapolate that out. I think we're looking at maybe 3,300 to 3,500 passing yards with 20 plus touchdowns and right at double digit interceptions for Tua this year. So I think it's a
That
terrible year.
That would be blah. That would be the definition of blah. I'm going to call a very efficient season for Tua. I mean, very, very efficient. I don't know if he's going to hit the 4,000-yard mark. I bet he pushes it. I'm going to call very high 20s or low 30 touchdowns. They have the weapons. They don't have in the red zone. I mean, Myles Gaskin, Ahmad, they don't have a power back. So inside the 5, inside the 10, they're going to be using Tua's feet. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot more. They don't have a 220-pound back. And please don't say Malcolm Brown, because that would offend everybody outside that's listening to us right now. Tua's going to be the guy. He's going to be the point guard of that offense. They have a little bit of everything because Devontae is still there. He is a jump ball guy. Preston Williams is there. Lynn Bowden was doing some of the things that I think Jalen Waddle can do a lot better in the slot, but Lynn Bowden was doing some stuff. He's going to be a guy in their offense. These tight ends, I do like both these tight ends. I think the touchdown numbers, if you include some rushing, can easily exceed 30 touchdowns. And for a fourth round startup player in a super flex, I think that would be wonderful. And you would see his ranking in Dynasty go up. Tua at his price right now, I think is a buy.
I mean, you're looking at QB. You're talking about 30. Over 30 touchdowns. I mean, you're teetering on QB1 territory here in fantasy. So you're looking at exact 35-13 for Kirk last year, 31-10 for Justin Herbert, 33-7 for Ryan Tannehill, 33-7 for Deshaun Watson. I mean, 33-10 for Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, that's the area that
He's going to be a little touchdown dependent. You made a great point that he's not going to be a 4,500-yard passer. I think he's going to be very efficient. I believe his interception numbers are going to be very low, and you're going to see some sneaky points on the rushing side. He's going to use his feet. He has more mobility than he showed last year. I mean, come on, Chris. They had the handcuffs on this kid the whole entire season. I want to see them take the training wheels off and let Tua, kind of like Russell Wilson, let Tua cook. Let's see what he can come up with. So that was kind of, each side of the fence in Dynasty. We went through a bunch of players. Chris, anybody we didn't bring up that's a real big buy or a real big sell for you right now?
There's several players, and I won't spend too much on it, but because I know we got to get some other topics. But there's some other buys that I love this year. TJ Hawkinson, he is my projected tight end 2 in fantasy this year. He is going to get targets. You hear it on our Roto Bros podcast all the time. Chase the targets. There is nobody else. I love Quintez Cephas as a potential guy that can make some noise in that Lions offense, but TJ Hawkinson is going to be the guy when it comes to catching the football on that Lions team this year that's probably going to be losing a lot of games. Obviously, Najee Harris he's going to get 350 plus touches in totality. T. Higgins, who everybody seems, I know Jamar Chase is the hot name right now. So everybody just is gone cold on T. Higgins. I love T. Higgins, and I want to be tied to Joe Burrow in any way that I can. DeAndre Swift, Mike Davis only for this year. This is mainly a Dynasty show. I get it. But for this year, I like Mike Davis as long as they don't sign, Gore or Peterson or Bell. Javonte Williams, I think, is going to end up being the RB1 sooner than later in the Broncos backfield. I love Cortland Sutton. I feel like he's a forgotten man. I don't care who his quarterback is. I think he's going to be a producer. And I think the trio, the new triplets in the NFC East, not on the Cowboys, on the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Reagor. I think Jalen Rager's in for a bit of a bounce back year. Jalen Hurts is probably going to end the season as a pretty good QB1. This is a bad football team. They're going to be throwing a lot. It's going to be a competitive division. And Devontae Smith, I'm telling you right now, is going to win people some championships.
Nice.
Oh, and I'm selling Cam Akers. I am selling Cam Akers. At that price, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Before I get into some of my buys and sells, all right, let's hear it. Cam Akers, why should I sell him?
Well, the first thing is look at his ADP and look at the players he's going around, right? Like Austin Eckler, we're gonna bypass Austin Eckler in a PPR draft for Cam
Chris,
Akers.
we're talking Dynasty. We're still on Dynasty, bub. I mean,
Austin Eckler's 26 years old.
That's fine. That's fine. We're talking Dynasty. I mean, if you go in 2021, I think there's a good argument that Eckler probably has a safer floor than Cam Akers. But going to the tape, even out of Florida State, when it really counted at the end of the 2020 season and in the playoffs, Cam Akers was the guy. And he was everything that we hope for, or less these Cam Akers truthers that it's Cam motherfucking Akers since last year when they drafted him. Sean McVay is the genius that you brought up earlier. They bring in Matthew Stafford. The ceiling's RB1. It's the ceiling's Todd Gurley 3 seasons ago. That type of offense. No, it's there, but the floor is a little bit lower than possibly an Austin Eckler. If you're talking redraft, there's a little bit of a floor because we didn't see it for an entire season. I trust McVay. I trust the offense, and he's going to be the guy. It's like Dart Henderson, it's over with. Malcolm Brown's gone. It's going to be Cam Akers' show. If he's healthy, he's electric. It goes back to the Florida State tape. To me, you didn't get to see enough of it to be maybe as confident as I am, but this guy has the speed, the strength, the agility. He's multidimensional. He can catch the ball. The ceiling is just sky high. And in Dynasty, I just can't see selling him right now because we haven't seen enough to say that he's not going to hit the peak that I'm talking about.
What if you're in a Dynasty league, and I'm talking to everybody, not just you, Zach. If you're in a Dynasty league, knowing this egregious price that Cam Akers is at right now, okay, in startup Dynasty leagues, this guy's getting drafted over Austin Eckler, getting drafted over Nick Chubb, getting drafted over Najee Harris. It's unfathomable to me for a guy that if you put the numbers for him and the numbers for Darrell Henderson last year, a guy that you loved when Darrell Henderson came out, you loved some dart.
I did.
You compare Darrell Henderson was better than Cam Akers. Now, it's sort of splitting hairs because they were pretty close, and I get it. Cam Akers took over as sort of more of a workhorse toward the end of the year, but Darrell Henderson was also hurt toward the end of the year as well. So I just don't think that I like Cam Akers' talent. I think he's a good running back. It's not like I don't think he's untalented, but I think we are just shooting the moon with this guy, so to speak. And I don't know why everybody's just forgetting about Darrell Henderson. Like he's just not a good football player. Like Darrell Henderson's going to be involved. He's going to be involved. Absolutely, he's going to be. And I don't think that the running back ratio here in this backfield is going to be 70-30 Cam Akers or better. I think we're looking at 60-40 at best for Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson.
You sold me in redraft, possibly Dynasty. I can't buy it because the talent that Cam Akers holds.
I get that.
In the offense, you want to tie yourself to an offense or a coach. Tie me to Sean McVay's running game. And
Matthew Stafford. I get it.
I'm all about it. So we are live. Like I said, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and anybody has any questions, go ahead and shoot it to us. We do have a few. Let's answer a couple before we get to some rookie sleepers, Chris. So my friend Jeremiah, he asks, what do you think Joe Mixon's ceiling is this season?
Joe Mixon. There was news coming out today from beat writers, and in the offseason, I need to let everybody know, don't pay attention to coach speak. Unless that coach speak is being backed up by beat writers who get paid to report on actual goings on, don't listen to the coach speak. Okay. Right now, there was some you could see on Sleeper and on Player Profiler. Chris Evans was everybody's adding Chris Evans because there was a rumor that Chris Evans was going to be inserted into this passing game. He was going to be a big time thing. He's not. And just today, that rumor was they put the kibosh on that. Joe Mixon, writers are talking about Joe Mixon is going to be fed the football in all facets of that backfield. It is going to run through Joe Mixon. Okay. So he is going to be a team, a much better football team, and they're going to be damn good, and they're going to be damn competitive. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win the division. Could they finish third? Maybe a surprise second? Sure. Because, with Joe Burrow, all things are possible, right? So I think that helps Joe Mixon. And so I think Joe Mixon could be a strong RB1. I don't see top 5 running back, to be honest with you. But I can see RB6 through 9 is where we're going to put that right there. So I think you could absolutely, and Joe Mixon's not going in the first round. So I think you could see a good return on investment with Joe Mixon. If you're going RB in a redraft or a startup dynasty, and Joe Mixon can be one of those guys, go for it. I think even third round, he's probably going in Superflex in third round. But that's even better value in my opinion. I think we could see a really, really good year from Joe Mixon. The key is always, he's got to stay on the field, right? So
that's the thing. His ceiling is RB1. The talent's there. The volume's going to be there. Chris Evans is a guy that came in. He's kind of like a poor man's Joe Mixon. Nice size, a little taller, speed. He never really – Jim Harbaugh had a ton of 5-star recruits and 4-star recruits that were better players, and then he didn't let them emerge. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Nico Collins. Jim Harbaugh dicked off a ton of offensive talent. So Chris Evans is one of these guys that people believe that his talent will emerge in the NFL, and he can be possibly like a poor man's Joe Mixon, but I'm with you. His ceiling is sky high. It's all about durability. He can catch the ball. The offense should be better. He can run in between the tackles. It's all about him staying on the field. So his ceiling is RB1. His floor is he gets hurt and doesn't win you shit. So let's move on. Another question real quick. Hey, guys, can you rank Ruggs, Rieger, and Judy in PPR? Chris, I'm going to go first. And my number one buy, you did some of your buys and sells. My number one buy, and I will put my face right next to it. My number one buy
I'll do it.
In Dynasty is Jerry Jeudy. The talent of Jerry Jeudy, jumps off tape. And I'm a tape guy. I'm not a numbers guy. I'm a tape guy. Now, he was second in the league in drops. God damn it. Learn to catch the ball because you're so fucking wide open. You could have had a 1,200-yard rookie season. The sky is the limit because nobody can really guard this guy one-on-one. He creates separation as well as anybody in the league right now, as good as anybody. I'm talking Devontae Adams,
100%.
DeAndre Hopkins. He creates separation down the field, and it pops off tape. The quarterback situation's a little dicey. His hands are a little dicey, but Jerry Jeudy is by far the number one player out of those three. Now, between Rieger and Ruggs, I felt like every startup I did this year, it came down to either Rieger or Ruggs in like the 9th or 10th round. I lean a little bit more toward Ruggs because I lean all the way back to the college tape, which favored Ruggs over Rieger, and it wasn't very close. Rieger has Devontae Smith come into the scene when Ruggs has, it's still Waller, Brian Edwards. They actually lost Nelson Aguilar. Ruggs is in position to have a big season, and his value right now just seems next to nothing because of a subpar rookie season. And these other rookies emerged like Chase Claypool, Justin Jefferson, all these guys. Everybody got a little cold on Henry Ruggs. I believe he will jump out in the 2021 season as more of the player you thought he was going to be in his rookie season. Rieger still has some value. He still has some upside, but I think he is trailing. He'd be the third one. So it goes Jeudy, Ruggs, and Rieger. What about you, Chris?
I love this question, Stephanie. I absolutely love it. Okay. I'm doing one of those big breaths again. Let's start with Jerry Jeudy. You and I, we could not be more in sync with Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy is the best route running wide receiver that I have personally scouted since Amari Cooper, and he may even be better than Amari Cooper was when both of them were coming out. Jerry Jeudy is the truth when it comes to running routes and creating separation between his breaks and all that. He is one of the best route runners already in the NFL, up there with Stephon Diggs and Antonio Brown. Obviously, he's got to fix the drops. The good news is drops are forgivable. People like to overstate these drops, and we talk about all the time on my show, drops are forgivable. Who else had drops before? Deontay Johnson had drops. He had a drop problem. He seems to have fixed that. MVS had one of the highest drop rates last year, 14%, I believe. But he's still, for the most part, trusted by Aaron Rodgers, mainly as a deep threat. Those are mainly concentration drops. We see that happen all the time. But more so than MVS, Mike Evans coming in the league, struggle with drop. Julio Jones still drops, a good amount of passes. Like, he still has problems with those. So we've seen that happen before. Nelson Aguilar Nelson Aguilar has drops, and now he's the number one wide receiver for the Patriots. Like, so we've seen this before. I don't think Jerry is going to have an issue with that moving forward. He's going to be fine. And let me tell you something. Aaron Rodgers ends up in Denver like I think it's going to. Oh, baby. Jerry Jeudy is going to be something. Jalen Reagor, I think it's good for him that Devontae Smith can kind of take over as that sort of alpha. He is not an alpha guy. He's not a number one threat. I think that's good for him, can kind of take some of the attention off of him. I like him more than Ruggs because he is going to be playing with a much better quarterback, in my opinion, a much better quarterback with a higher ceiling in fantasy as well. And on a team that's going to be throwing because their team and I think their defense as a whole is going to be terrible. So I like Jalen Reagor a little bit more than Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs, I did agree with you. I like the college tape more than Reagor coming out. The problem is how they're using him. Henry Ruggs, and we had an episode last night on the Roto Bros pod about that centered around guys like Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs, to me, is strictly a DFS tournament target. That's all he is. I am not going to insert this guy into a season-long league, dynasty or redraft, whatever. In a season-long fantasy league, I am not going to try to guess week to week where his 3-catch, 120-yard, 1-touchdown, 87-yard touchdown game is going to come. I don't want to do that. I am a man of consistency, and I would rather start a guy like a Russell Gage, who is going to give you a higher floor week to week. Now, Russell Gage isn't going to give you 4 catches for 170 yards and 2 scores. Henry Ruggs can do that 1 week out of the season, but I don't want to guess when that's going to happen. You know, I'd rather do that in a DFS tournament. I'm not playing season long like I'm playing DFS. I am out on Henry Ruggs 150% in traditional season long leagues. So to answer your question, it easily goes Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Reagor, Henry Ruggs, a distant third for me.
I mean, that sounds a lot like Jalen Reagor. I mean, when are you going to know that he's going to pop? You don't have any clue what his volume share is going to be. Devontae Smith will be the number one guy there. Jalen Hurts, I mean, if you talk about throwing the ball, Derek Carr's a better thrower than Jalen Hurts, even though I really like Jalen Hurts in Dynasty and Fantasy. I'm a Jalen Hurts guy because of his feet.
John Brown is in Las Vegas now, by the way. They brought in John Brown, who can do the same things even better than Henry Ruggs right now.
He can't. Now, Henry Ruggs did have a big game where he emerged last year and then sprained his ankle. I don't think he was the same player on tape after he hurt his ankle against the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe it was week 4, but he had a huge four catch, like 150 yards, long touchdown. We never saw Henry Ruggs the same the rest of the season. I'm looking for him to emerge, but I'm not going to say he's going to be a wide receiver 1, Chris. I think he's going to be a wide receiver 3. I think he's going to be startable. You're going to be able to start him during bye weeks and injuries. Let's not throw him in the complete fucking trash. It's Henry Ruggs. He's got this 4.2 speed. I mean, if you're a big Jalen Waddle fan in fantasy, I mean, tell me the difference.
They're going to be used. That's the difference. Let me tell you, go back to listen to my scouting brief on Henry Ruggs last year. I loved him. He can run all the routes. He is not just one of these John Ross. He's not of this John Ross archetype. Like, that is not who he is. But he is being used that way, at least in his first season, in Las Vegas. And I wish that they would use him in more of a Tyreek Hill, Brandon Cooks sort of way, where he is on the outside 100% of the time. He is doing more than just running posts and fades and things of that nature. And he is being trusted with a little more volume because he can be more of a do-it-all guy as opposed to, okay, just run it deep or just kind of clear the middle of the field for us so that we can get it to Darren Waller. It's not that I don't like Henry Ruggs because I don't like Henry Ruggs. It's because I don't trust how Las Vegas is going to use him. That, to me, is the ultimate problem.
Yeah, I think Reagor and Ruggs are very close. And saying otherwise is I'm a little out on Rager compared to Ruggs because of a talent thing, but you're not sure how Philadelphia is going to attack this situation, so you really don't.
I won't crucify you for that. Look, I totally get being down on Rager. I'm not going to crucify anybody for that. Now, I'm huge on Devontae Smith, clearly. But Rager, look, I totally understand if somebody's not as warm on him as I am.
I'm with it. So, real quick, another question. Do you think CEH, Edwards-Helaire, can be a top 5 running back? Now, I'm not sure if they're talking redraft or dynasty. So, if we're talking just dynasty, yes, because of his quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. Now, if we're talking 2021, I don't know if I can get behind Edwards-Helaire as a top 5 running back this season.
No.
If anything, in dynasty with Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Andy Reid, I really believe that he can come very close. I have him like RB9 right now, RB8 in dynasty. Next year, could he be a top 5? I wouldn't be surprised. So, Chris, where are you on that?
I have warmed up to Clyde Edwards-Helaire ever since they traded for Orlando Brown. They needed to fix this offensive line. We saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire sort of break out a little bit early on in the season, do some nice things early on, and we were like, okay, this is what we, as soon as he was taken to Kansas City, literally every single one of us watching the draft was like, oh, he's the number 1 overall pick in rookie drafts, right? Like, am I lying? No, like we all thought that. So, and it's because of the Chiefs and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce clearing out the middle of the field and keeping defenses honest. So the problem is Le'Veon Bell came to town and production completely fell apart, which is strange because it's not like Le'Veon Bell was even productive. So that was kind of alarming. Now they bring in Orlando Brown, huge upgrade for that team. So I think it could make all the difference. I see Clyde Edwards-Helaire being on sort of that teetering, that RB1. I'm not going to say high-end RB1, but I think you're right. Sort of RB9, more RB9 to RB11 for me, because I do think we're going to see guys like Alvin Kamara, I think is going to be a strong RB1, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Ezekiel Elliott, probably Nick Chubb, and then I think we're going to have to throw, Najee Harris in there because of, I think, typically every single year you have at least 1 or 2 rookie running backs finish in the top 10. So I think from a fantasy perspective in PPR, Najee Harris is going to be there just based on volume alone. With 350-plus touches, this guy's going to get. And so you're always going to have those random names you didn't expect to finish as an RB1. David Montgomery, James Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Kareem Hunt. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire can be on the RB1 territory, but I would have him more like running back 9 to 12, that sort of area. But I think that's RB1, right? So, I don't want him as my number 1 running back on my team. But as my number 2 running back, I think you can do a lot worse. So there you go, Anthony.
My thing is, can he improve inside the goal line? Or does Andy Reid trust him inside the goal line? Kind of like the Miami situation. Do they have a goal line back? Does Patrick Mahomes have to do it all inside the 5? Edwards-Helaire, to start the season, had a terrible game against the Texans inside the goal line. And we never really seen him get those opportunities the rest of the year. It seems like they leaned a little bit on Darrell Williams and Le'Veon Bell when he came in. So can he learn to run a little bit more inside the tackles when they know they're running the ball? I think he can improve, but in a PPR league, in Dynasty with Patrick Mahomes, it just seems like the points are going to come so easy for this kid. I just don't know if he's ever going to get inside the top 5, but it'll be very close. Edwards-Helaire is a great player that's getting undervalued in some platforms.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I completely agree. I think we're pretty much in sync there. And I think he's a great buy low. We were talking about buys and sells. I think he's a guy that you could buy low as well, because I don't think a lot of people, your average fantasy player, isn't really looking at the Orlando Brown. They may not even know about the Orlando Brown edition, So try to take it. No, this is where your league mates. If you're playing with like myself and Zack, like obviously we're going to be aware of that. But the average Joe Smo who owns Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they may not know about that edition. So try to buy low on that if you can.
I like it. So before we get into some rookie sleepers real quick, and we are getting a little close on time, guys, but any other questions, feel free, shoot them very quickly. One more before we get to some rookie sleepers. Now, SK, I'm not sure who that is. SK, no picture. But let's hear some Michael Thomas thoughts. Name a better wide receiver to buy low on for 2021. So this is a redraft question, real quick. Michael Thomas is going to blow the fuck up. He's going to be the same player he was in 2019. He's going to have over 150 targets. I don't care who the quarterback is, Jameis, Taysom Hill. I don't care if they bring back Peyton's dad, Archie Manning. I don't care who's throwing him the ball. He's the only option in the pass game other than Kamara. The catches are going to flow. We're talking about a guy, the mental of Michael Thomas. He might be one of the most mentally tough wide receivers out there. He dominates corners, and I know this guy cannot wait to get on the field and prove himself from a subpar 2020 season. 2021, I would be shocked if Michael Thomas wasn't a top 10 wide receiver or even a top 5. I mean, more than likely, he's going to be a top 3 redraft wide receiver for me because of the volume. It's going to be there. Michael Thomas is a huge buy in redraft, and you can get him very cheap in Dynasty right now. And it's lovely. If you're a contender, it's lovely. The Michael Thomas value is nasty.
It's amazing. And it is infuriating at the same time that people are just disrespecting him so much. Like, I get it. He's coming off, a very un-Michael Thomas-esque year that what we're used to. Well, look, Tyreek Hill's a wide receiver 1. He's going ahead of him. Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs after his year. Can't blame anybody there. DeAndre Hopkins, can't blame anybody there. DK, Calvin, can't blame anybody there. I'm taking Michael Thomas over A.J. Brown, especially now that Julio Jones is there. So I'd drop A.J. a little bit. Keenan Allen, I won't blame anybody there. Justin Jefferson, won't blame you there. So there's guys there ahead of Michael Thomas that I can't argue with. But it's Michael Thomas. This isn't just a guy that, is running a bunch of, deep routes and is going to require a lot of deep downfield accuracy. Look, I don't like Jameis Winston and I don't like Taysom Hill. And I think the 2 quarterbacks system is absolute garbage. And I think it's stupid. And I think Sean Payton should know better than to try to implement this stupid thing. But the fact of the matter is Michael Thomas is big. He is an elite route runner. He is strong. He's going to use his frame to create a little bit of separation. And, of course, his route running and everything is going to help with that. He's got incredible hands. He's a great one-on-one wide receiver. So it's not like he's got great size and catch radius. So it's not like Jameis Winston has to put it on the money. He's going to chuck it downfield, and he's going to chuck it to Michael Thomas. And we saw the last time Jameis Winston was a quarterback full-time. Mike Evans looked pretty damn good, right? Like, we loved what we saw out of the volume that those Bucs receivers were getting. Now, he can be infuriating in fantasy for Jameis Winston, that is, but Michael Thomas is not going to suffer. He is going to be a wide receiver 1, and he is going to get a ton of volume, and he is going to be toward the top of the league in targets. Now, I don't want Traquan Smith. I don't want Adam Troutman as much as everybody else does. Give me Alvin Kamara, give me Michael Thomas. I want Michael Thomas is a great buy low. It's incredible and disappointing at the same time where his ADP is. And the fact that it's wide receiver 10 and we're saying that right now is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I'm stealing him in dynasty startups, 5th, 6th round. I mean, it's insane. Yeah. We're talking a guy that was wide receiver 1 and set records 2 seasons ago. Got hurt the first week, guys. The first week. Now, the quarterback changes, but I trust Sean Payton. You're going to see a trend here, and it seems like Chris is on the same page. I trust offensive coordinators. I trust offensive play callers. I trust the Sean McVays, the Sean Paytons, the Kyle Shanahans of the world to get the job done. And no matter who the quarterback is, Michael Thomas is going to succeed, and I can't wait to see it. I'm going to buy everywhere in redraft at that price for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I said, we started this show on some memories. We have a past, and it starts in the NFL draft, and a lot of it goes into rookie rankings.
Yep.
So I want to hear Chris McConnell's best rookie sleepers for the 2021 season.
Well, you already know one because we talked about it ad nauseum earlier. I love Trey Sermon. I won't dive more into that, but Trey Sermon is definitely one of them.
Please don't.
I love Nico Gallup. Oh, I'm sorry, not Nico Golladay, Nico Collins. I think Nico Collins, to me, is going to be a guy that people need to pay attention to. Right now in rookie drafts, you can really get him at the at the top of the third round, end of the second round, even in the mid-third round, I've seen him go. Nico Collins is the guy that I think you really need to pay attention to. I say Nico Golladay. He profiles a lot like Kenny Golladay. 6'4", 215, great speed. He's actually faster than Kenny Golladay, believe it or not. Now, he would have gotten drafted. Todd McShay had him as a first-round draft pick in a mock draft prior to the 2021 season. Obviously, he decided to opt out of the season due to COVID, probably more so due to the fact that his quarterback was Shea Patterson. If my quarterback was Shea Patterson, I'd opt out too. So obviously that dropped his draft stock a little bit. So that seems to happen unless your name is like Jamar Chase, right? So, but look, I think Nico Collins has all the talent in the world, and here's the best part about it. He's going to play on a bad football team that's going to be throwing the ball a lot, okay? They're going to have to catch up. And look at his situation. Name another wide receiver on the Texans depth chart other than Brandon Cooks. Now, Zack and I can probably say Keke Coutee right off the bat, but it probably took some other people a couple seconds to come up with another one, if you even did, before I gave you the answer, right? And let's not pretend Keke Coutee is this world beater guy that is going to hold down a guy with an alpha sort of profile like Nico Collins. Nico Collins can be the real deal on this team and has a very high ceiling as like a Kenny Golladay, and I think he profiles a lot like Michael Pittman did last year. I comped Michael Pittman to Kenny Golladay and like a faster Alshon Jeffrey last year. But Nico Collins, to me, has that sort of Kenny Golladay ceiling. We talked about Kenny earlier. The problem is quarterback. We don't trust Tyrod Taylor, obviously. Davis Mills is going to Davis Mills was taken with their first draft pick this year, Zach. So he is going to get starts this year, barring Deshaun Watson coming back, which I all think we know that story's over in Houston. So Davis Mills is going to get snaps. He's not a bad quarterback, but he definitely should have made an extra year in college. But they're going to throw him into the fire once Tyrod disappoints or gets hurt or something along those lines. So I don't think Nico Collins is in for a 2021 breakout like Justin Jefferson. I don't think we should expect that at all. Can he show some flashes, though, like Michael Pittman did last year? Absolutely, I think he can. I think he may actually get a little more opportunity than Michael Pittman because this team is going to throw so much, and I think they're going to be looking for a guy like Nico Collins on the outside to create sort of a size-speed mismatch. He's also a great 50-50 ball catcher as well, so keep that in mind. But I think Nico Collins, this is Dynasty, so it's not always a sprint. Sometimes it's a marathon. I think 2021 or 2022 and beyond, you're sitting Nico Collins on your taxi squad for a year. You're just being patient, and you're going to like what you see in 2021, I think, in small samples. I love Nico Collins. He is one of my guys. Another one is Javonte Williams, real quick. Javonte Williams, I think, is going to be I think there is a case to be made in Dynasty, a case to be made to where you should draft him over Travis Etienne for long term. This is a guy that is a workhorse running back. He does it all. He even shared backfield reps with Michael Carter, who's now with the Jets, and he was still breaking PFF broken tackle records. Okay, so Javonte Williams is a machine, and he can do it all. He got drafted to a perfect team, a perfect scheme, that zone blocking scheme we talked about with Trey Sermon, and Melvin Gordon is dust. Like, this guy is on his last leg, pun intended, and it's not going to take a lot for Javonte Williams to earn that RB1 role. There are some beat writer reports that are questioning whether or not he can take that over in week one. So those are a couple guys to look for as well. Late rounds, fourth round in a rookie draft, Kylan Hill, one of my favorite players in this entire draft. Does not have a lot of red flags, does not have a lot of negatives to his game. He's a do-it-all runner. He led the SEC in rushing before Mike Leach came in to install this pass-heavy offense. And I was excited for that because we saw what Max Borhe did at Washington State as the pass-catching running back, led by a long shot, led all running backs in the nation in targets and receptions out of the backfield. So I was like, this is great for Kylan Hill. He decides to opt out. It hurts his draft stock. This is a guy that fell into a great situation because if Aaron Jones gets hurt, it ain't going to be A.J. Dillon taking those third down pass catches out of the backfield for Green Bay, it's going to be Kylan Hill. So keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah, Kylan really surprised me that he lasted to the 7th round. Loved his tape at Mississippi State. He was all they really had there. He was kind of do it all. And when I did rank these running backs pre-draft, Kylan, I came up with the strengths and weaknesses, and he had no weaknesses.
Yeah.
We're talking about a player that can play all 3 downs. He's not a 4.4 guy, but he's not a 4.6 guy either. He's 4.5. He's not 225 pounds. He's 215. So he's not just a scat back. He can catch the ball. He's just a jack of all trades, a master of none. Kylan Hill could be a player that could emerge. Now, I want to say one thing. Javonte Williams as a sleeper, Chris. I don't know. That's not going out on too much of a limb there, my friend. Javonte Williams.
Maybe not.
Any fantasy owner, dynasty owners, they're all on his nuts. Trust me. Everybody's on Javonte's fucking nuts. So calling him a sleeper, unless you're going to call him RB1 or something, or a top 5 dynasty running back, calling him a sleeper is not going out on too much of a limb. Everybody loves Javonte. He is in a pretty good spot. Nico, you make some great points there. Terrible team, opportunity, volume. In the 4th quarter, they're going to be throwing the ball up. Nico projects well. Very inconsistent tape. He really needed the 2020 season, and we didn't get to see it. Now, I talked earlier. Jim Harbaugh has pissed away a ton of offensive talent. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Chris Evans, just to name a few. So I'm with Nico. So I like your list. I like the list. A couple of mine, it's going to go around the same range as Nico Collins, and he was a 3rd-round pick for the LA Chargers. Josh Palmer.
I agree.
From Tennessee, a guy that was invisible to me until September of 2020 when SEC football started, and I seen him on the outside of a piss-poor offense with a piss-poor quarterback, and I was like, who's this guy outside making great plays against SEC corners? And it was Josh Palmer, a 6'3", 210 guy. Nice speed, not great, but a contested catch. I mean, warrior. He goes up and gets it. He has very good footwork. He's very reliable on the outside. And we're talking a guy that could jump right into maybe wide receiver 2 with Justin Herbert as his quarterback in 2022. Mike Williams is going to be a free agent. I do not see them retaining him past 2021. The tight end situations that Keenan Allen's 29 and always injured. We're talking Josh Palmer could be a guy that, who knows, could be the number 1 wide receiver for Justin Herbert in 2 or 3 seasons.
You're right. I agree. I'm in on Justin Palmer. I'm with you, buddy.
Now, I'm not going to act like this dude is a superstar alpha wide receiver right off the bat, but he's just good enough to win on the outside. And if he has Justin Herbert throwing him the ball, the sky's the limit. You don't have to be an alpha player in real life to be a solid wide receiver in the NFL. So I'm all about him. A couple other sleepers, Dwayne Eskridge. I think he's a player that's actually 24 years old. Speedster out of Western Michigan, was drafted in the 2nd round. Give me Russell Wilson. Tie me to some of these players. Frank Darby for the Atlanta Falcons.
I love Frank.
Julio's gone. Talk about a bulldog. I mean, a 4'6" guy. He's not fast at all. He just wins off the line with strength and toughness and grit. Great hands, a great locker room guy. He's going to win over Matt Ryan in that offense. And I mean, I'm not a very big on Russell Gage. Kyle Pitts obviously is amazing. Calvin Ridley is obviously amazing. They're going to need another wide receiver. Frank Darby is a guy in the 4th round of your rookie drafts.
He's making noise. He is. I'm in Atlanta.
Jump all over Frank Darby. He's a guy for sure. Jarrett Patterson. He could maybe be your Phillip Lindsay this season. I think he could be the Phillip Lindsay. I'm known as an Antonio Gibson hater. He's my number 1 sell right now. Sell him. He's already. I mean, I don't believe the durability's there. I love a 6'2", 230-pound running back. He never played running back in college. I like to see guys carry it 200+ times in college before I announce that they're going to be an RB1. He had a really good season, but Jarrett Patterson is a guy I had rated over Trey Sermon coming into the draft. He's only 5'6", about 205, but his lateral quickness is great. He has a feel for the run game, and he's tough as nails, and we've seen it time in and time out. players undrafted coming in, and all they need is opportunity. It doesn't matter anymore. James Robinson, it didn't matter that he was undrafted rookie because he had the starting role and he ran with it. Jared Patterson, I'm not going to say he's going to beat out Antonio Gibson. I'm not saying he's more talented, but he's a guy you can pick very late that if something happens, which more than likely it already has. I mean, he's not healthy right now. Antonio Gibson, if something happens to him,
running back's a revolving door. You're right.
Jared Patterson is a guy that can come in there and he can handle volume. He had 8 touchdowns in a game. I don't care if it was against Kent State or a high school team. He had 8 touchdowns in a game. He has great vision and lateral quickness. He's a 4'6" guy, so he's not the speedster. You don't have to be a speedster to be a starting running back in the NFL. If we're talking sleepers, Jared Patterson should be on your radar.
Yeah, I'm with you on Jared Patterson. Now, look, undrafted free, he's got to make the team. But if he makes the team, there's an opportunity there for, now he'll probably need an injury. But J.D. McKissic is not a guy that handles the running back the running workload. Jared Patterson can definitely make some noise. If he makes the team, watch out. Like, you might want to keep your eye on him. So I agree. Now, I do want to withdraw my Javonte Williams because you're right. This is probably not a big sleep. Pat Freiermuth. I don't think he's getting overshadowed by Kyle Pitts, of course, as he should. And even Brevin Jordan, it seems. Pat Freiermuth is an absolute animal. And I think this is a guy that is going to be tight end 1 in Pittsburgh sooner rather than later. Do not be surprised if Pat Freiermuth has a 2021 breakout as a rookie.
Big Ben's going to love him. It's going to go back to the days of Heath Miller, big tight end, reliable, right across the middle, in the red zone, can block, can do everything. I love that. That's a great point right there. I love it, Chris. So we're going to end the show today on a little 22 NFL draft.
Oh, yeah.
And this is, I don't know. I'm digging myself. I'm digging my heels into Devy and college rankings in 2022, 2020, 2023. I mean, I love it. I love the NFL draft. I love college football. This is why I started doing this shit.
This is how we intersected. Like, the draft is what was really the core of us meeting. So it's nice to talk.
It's so important in Dynasty to project forward with your draft picks. Are you going to, if your team's not so good, do you tank out and try to get draft picks? Do you sell the draft picks? Do you think it's going to be a good draft? Now, 2-3 seasons ago, I bought every draft pick in the 2020 draft that I possibly could in Dynasty. And that draft, and I seen it after their freshman season. I knew Jonathan Taylor was a stud. I knew Cam Akers. I mean, I knew J.K. Dobbins. I knew Najee Harris. I knew Travis Etienne. I knew all about these players because I'm a college addict. And I was like, this draft class is going to be special. I bought everything, and then throw in CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy, plus a couple quarterbacks. Like, the class was very special. Do you see the same type of talent in the 2022 season? And who are a couple players, I guess, that are on your radar to emerge as being those first-round picks in Dynasty rookie drafts?
Let me explain something to everybody right now. The 2022 draft class is better, top to bottom, than the 2021 class. I'm telling you that right now. Running backs are probably a little more shallow than you would typically like it, but it's not like this class was super deep at running back either, in my opinion. As far as running backs, I think we have the best running back prospects since Barkley coming out, and that's Isaiah Spiller out of Texas A&M. I am absolutely drooling over this guy. He is unbelievably talented. You turn on his tape, he pops off the screen to me. He's going to be easily the first running back off the board. Zamir White, Zeus, as we call him down here. Now, look, I'm a Georgia Tech guy personally, but when it comes to like analyzing the game, I remove all bias. I like Zamir White. I still want to learn a little more about him. I want to see him, do it a little bit more. He hasn't been as productive as I think a lot of people would have liked when he came in as a freshman. Of course, he's splitting with James Cook, Dalvin's brother, as well. But Breece Hall from Iowa State is another one that you should keep an eye on as well. Now, quarterback and wide receiver, though, is really where I love this draft, Zach. My number one quarterback in the draft this year, and I have a love affair. It's a man crush. I love Matt Corral. I want all the Matt Corral that I can possibly handle in 2022. He is my number one quarterback on the board.
He had a 5-interception game, right?
I did, but
Okay.
he had 11 interceptions, but only in 2 games. What does that spell to you? Fluky. It's not like he had a bunch of interceptions and he tore apart, I believe it was Florida, and he had a pretty rock-solid game, I believe, against Alabama as well. So he has done this against top-tier defenses, top-tier competition. Now, we have to be fair. He did lose Elijah Moore. So we're going to see what happens moving forward because he's probably going to have to carry this football team in the SEC in 2022. So that's or 2021, 2022. So that's going to be interesting to see from Matt Corral. But I think right now, this very day, Matt Corral's my number one quarterback. It could change. Lane Kiffin loves to throw that ball, and he trusts Matt Corral to throw it downfield. I do love Corral. Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati, I think, profiles as a prototypical in today's game NFL quarterback. I think he's a guy that could really, he's going to have another big season, but he's going to have a bigger season throwing the football to really impress some NFL scouts. He's one to watch. And then Carson Strong from Nevada is more of a dark horse. I think he's a guy that could really be one of the sharpest risers in this draft. So keep an eye out for him. Keaton Slovis from USC, I'm not a huge fan of right now, to be quite honest with you. So those are 3 guys at the quarterback position I like and one that I'm not too big on.
That's funny. I figured you would have been a Slovis guy. He's in the line of a Joe Burrow, a guy that's very accurate with a subpar arm, except his arm is probably more of a, instead of Joe Burrow being a C+, he's more of a C-. Not much arm strength, but very accurate and a smart kid. I like Slovis, but I don't think he's going to be this first overall type pick.
Me either.
Now, if we're just getting into the 22 class, now I like that you like the wide receivers class. The running backs, they are going to be deeper. The 21 class is one of the leanest I've ever seen at the running back position. There was 3 studs, and then it just fell completely off. Next year, Isaiah Spiller, me and you might have to have a separate conversation one day of Isaiah Spiller being the best back since Saquon. I'm not going to compare him with maybe a DeAndre Swift or even I'm not sure. I really like Spiller. We're talking about a 6'1", 225-pound running back that can catch the ball, very agile, and he will run you over. And Texas A&M is going to have a great season this year. He was actually my first pick in Devy this season. So Isaiah Spiller, I'm all about. He's my RB1. I'm not going to contest that at all. Breece Hall is a player you need to know. I just don't know if he's going to be a superstar at the next level, but he's going to be a guy that's going to be in the mix for being RB2. Kyron Williams from Notre Dame, you have to know him. He fits the profile of an Aaron Jones, electric, a little undersized, but he's lightning in a bottle. Kyron Williams. Kevin Harris, a guy that wasn't even supposed to be the starter for South Carolina last year, led the SEC in rushing. We're talking about Nick Chubb type physicalness without maybe a 5th gear. He might get stuck in 4th gear. He's probably a 4.6 guy instead of a very low 4.5 that Nick Chubb is. Watch the tape on Kevin Harris from South Carolina last year. It's nasty. I mean, he's making people look like fools. I absolutely love him, a guy that emerged out of nowhere and is going to take the SEC down again. And quarterbacks, it starts with Rattler for me from Oklahoma, just with the pure ability. If we're talking ceiling, he's got to be the player that has the highest ceiling. I like Sam Howell. I think he's a little limited. He reminds me, he's very cocky. He's a cocky kid. I don't like his attitude. Maybe because, they beat us 62-28 and I'm a Miami Hurricane fan. But he can make some plays. He's a gunslinger. He reminds me of Baker Mayfield with his attitude and his play. So Baker Mayfield looked pretty damn good last season. Sam Howell's going to be a player in the NFL. Now, after those 2, I can't get behind Corral. I'm sorry, not as a legit NFL prospect. He can move around a little bit. Lane Kiffin can really coach some offense. I mean, Lane Kiffin put that boy in some really good situations, and he was producing against some high-end competition. I can't get behind him as a true NFL prospect. My number 3 quarterback is Slovis. My number 4 is Mr. JT Daniels because of that big league arm. Can he ever put it all together? Give me a guy with an A+ arm that looked really good at the end of last season, and maybe I can work with him. I'm not so sure about these quarterbacks in 2022 behind the top two, Chris. You're going to have to sell me on that maybe on another day. The wide receivers are going to be strong. Traylon Burks from Arkansas, he's an A.J. Brown clone. Garrett Wilson from Ohio State, he is an alpha type on the outside. George Pickens tore his ACL, so we're not going to see him this season, but he was my wide receiver one. We're talking a Calvin Ridley type route runner. So the wide receivers will be just fine in the 2022 draft. The running backs will just be fine. I don't know if you're going to get the studs of Najee Harris. I don't think Isaiah Spiller's quite there.
There is a guy that I think at running back that a lot of people need to know, and I think he is going to. I feel like there's a feeling that he is going to end up as my number 2 back and could end up as well. I think he's going to. I don't think he's going to surpass Spiller as my number 1 guy next year. But Eric Gray,
I was going to say Eric Gray
to Oklahoma. This guy, right? I mean, he is impressive. Now, again, he is in my top 5 in 2022 at running back, but he is going to rise, I think, and he's going to have a really good year. You mentioned wide receivers. Yeah, like everybody knows Justin Ross and Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. But there are a couple of guys, that, and I think you mentioned Traylon Burks as well for Arkansas. But there are a lot of guys here, though, that a lot of people just haven't really heard of. One of those guys that I think is going to be a sharp riser who also plays with Carson Strong at Nevada is Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs, I watched his tape 2 weeks ago. He's very impressive as well, and I think he's going to be a wide receiver that really we see a sharp rise. And as long as Carson Strong can be pretty solid at quarterback for him, I think this is going to be a quarterback wide receiver combo to look out for. And of course, like George Pickens, John Mechie, by the way, for Alabama is a Calvin. I mean, he is Calvin Ridley in every sense of the comparison. Like it's unbelievable. He is a great route runner, absolutely great wide receiver. So this draft in 2022, like it is not lacking for talent, man. There's going to
be some guys. There's going to be some guys. I'm not so sold on the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks really kind of held up the 2021 class. They really did. Of course, like I said, there was the stud running backs, but get the back end of the first, even in super flex drafts, and it's kind of like, next year you'll have plenty of running backs. Maybe not the high end talent of a Najee Harris, but there's going to be plenty of guys. The wide receivers are going to be fantastic. Tight ends very weak to me. There's a couple guys on my radar, but it's nothing like the Kyle Pitts and the Brevin Jordans of last year, even though Brevin Jordan fell and everything. So it's a class that you're going to get some guys. You know what it is. So don't just be giving away your first-round picks just for Jarvis Landry or somebody on a quick fix because you need a wide receiver 3. Please don't. Hold it. If you need a quarterback, though, I think it might not be the class unless you get one of the first picks. There's some guys that can emerge. Malik Willis from Liberty. I mentioned JT Daniels. Carson Strong's an interesting guy. Who's going to be this year's Zach Wilson? So Carson Strong's the name on a lot of people's tongues. I'm not excited about the quarterback group. I'm just not. Riddler from Cincinnati is the tall guy that can move, who was very efficient last year, but does he have that it factor to be a first-round QB and take over the face of a franchise? I'm not so sure. So he's a guy that he's there. You have to rank him. He's my 5th quarterback rated, but I'm not going to get stupid excited for him. So you like Corral a lot more than me. Eric Gray, that's a name. Earlier, when I was shitting on Trey Sermon, a lot of subpar running backs could produce at Oklahoma. Eric Gray produced on a terrible Tennessee offense. Look out for Eric Gray to be in the Heisman contention. Look for him, day one to pop at Oklahoma and hit. Like he's going to be scorching. He's the guy we're going to be talking about in October that nobody was talking about in August, being a first-round type player. So Eric Gray was a great point there, Chris.
If you play college fantasy football, you need to draft Eric Gray. If you miss Isaiah Spiller, draft Eric Gray.
I'm hip. So great point. We've made a lot of good points. We've gone back and forth. This went over by about 45 minutes. Anything else, Chris, before we end this and tell everybody at home where they can find you?
Yeah, I think we made it for a lot of time. We made it for lost time, Zach. So it was a lot of fun, man. I can't wait to do it again. We'll have to have you on the show as well. So you guys can find me on Twitter at Wizard of Roto. You can also check out the Roto Bros Fantasy Football podcast with myself and Mark Wimpkin. Mark is more of an he's an analytics guy. That's his Bible. And I use analytics as more of a peripheral tool. I don't completely just disregard them because they are important. But we view the football through two different spectrums. So it's a fun show to listen to. And you can check us out also in the Roto Bros Fantasy Lounge. Go to patreon.com/RotoBros. And we have some great stuff for you guys there as well. It's a great fantasy advice chat. I'm going to try to get Zach in that as well. And so you can catch us all in there. So it's going to be a blast.
I love it, man. So we're ending the show. Roster Rescue, a Dynasty Football podcast. Hour and 45 minutes. Holy fucking shit. Chris McConnell, thanks again for coming on the show, man. And I can't wait to jump on Roto Bros with you guys and talk a little Dynasty football and have you on again. So it's been fun. I'm going to head out. Have a good one.